All right, guys, you guys probably clicked on this video because you guys want to learn how to flip houses or wholesale houses. This video is going to be for beginners. It's going to be a whole overview on how to get the process done from A to Z. We're going to mainly be sticking to the point of how to flip houses, not really wholesaling the whole process. But if you guys want to learn how to flip houses and you're a beginner, stick through the whole video. You're going to get a lot of sauce. So the very first step I put into here is going to be what market are you in and how to pick a market. So picking your market is going to be very, very important, obviously, because the different markets that are in higher price points, lower price points is going to be on how much you can afford as a down payment to flip your very first property. So you want to look at the average cost of property. If you do live in the very expensive areas like the Bay Areas, the New Yorks, the some parts in Florida, you might want to pick a different market to flip in. If you do have the capital to stay in those markets, I do recommend staying in those markets because the average profit per deal is going to be much higher than anywhere else. I do recommend picking a market where you live in your backyard if you can. If you cannot, then look at other markets. The reason I say pick a market where you live, because you can go, talk to sellers in person, check on the rehab, the scope of work in person, and everything is going to be, the process is just going to be more tied down, less room for error. Another thing to look at again, are you going to be looking to flip or wholesale? If you live in California, especially like the Bay Area, you can't really afford the properties to flip. I would definitely look into wholesaling. I would probably pick wholesaling. I would probably pick to do work in your backyard, either if it's flipping or wholesaling. If you can't afford to flip there, then learn how to wholesale in your market. I would not recommend flipping out of state. I've done it before. The process is very, very how do I say it? There's a lot of room for error. So unless it's a very, very good deal, then flip, out of your backyard. But if it's not, then I would stick to your backyard. The second thing is after you pick your market, you're going to want to pick a way how to generate leads. The question I asked here is, do you have capital to start? The reason I'm asking this question is because if you do have money to start, I would recommend going for inbound leads. These are stuff like, Facebook leads, Google advertising leads, YouTube advertising leads, anything where the seller has to pick up the phone or they see an ad, we want to buy your house ad, and they call, say, hey, I need to sell my house for cash and I need to sell it quick. Those are inbound leads. They're going to be a little bit more expensive than your outbound stuff. Outbound is everything like cold calling, texting, door knocking. It's going to take a lot more time and effort to close your deal, but it is a cheaper option. If you don't have any sales experience, I'd recommend doing outbound so you can, get good at sales before you start spending a lot of money on leads. But if you have capital, it's not that much capital, around probably $5,000 to $10,000 to get started with inbound leads. If you have around that much and you have sales experience, I would go 100% with the inbound leads. A lot easier. You're probably going to close out of 20 sellers that you talk to, you're probably going to get one deal. With outbound, you're probably going to need to talk to 40, 50 sellers, and you may get one deal, but the process is just going to take way longer. Like with inbound leads, the average close timeline is probably around 30 days, and then outbound is probably going to be like 2 to 3, 4 months. And then the next step is, after you pick your market, get a lead source, figure out, you start getting leads coming in, you're going to need to learn how to analyze these properties. You're going to need to want to learn how to comp properties and how to run a rehab budget. I can do another video on how to comp properties and how to run a rehab budget. They'll probably be in the same video, but just a quick rundown on how to comp properties. For example, if you have a seller that wants to sell a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, property built around 1990s, you want to see the same neighborhood. I usually like to go half-mile radius out to see all the sold properties within the last 3 to 6 months, half-mile radius out. You want to look for the same properties. 3-bedroom, 2-bath built around 1990. You don't want to compare, older homes with newer homes, or 3-bedroom properties with 4-bedroom properties, 1-bathroom houses with 2-bathroom houses. They want to be apples to apples. So you want to, compare similar houses. How to run a rehab budget. This is kind of, this is going to take some time to know. I can give you guys kind of a brief rundown. In all markets, usually it's different as well. So like California is going to have a different rehab budget than Vegas, where I am. I currently flip in Las Vegas. And our rehab budget for like cosmetic is around $30 a square foot to fix up cosmetic. I know in California, it's probably double that. It's around $60 a square foot to fix cosmetic. And then if you're changing, structural windows and things like that, it can go up to $100 a square foot in some areas. So this is going to be kind of different for everybody. But a rough guideline to get started, I would say $40 a square foot for cosmetic rehabs. That's like no structural, no taking any walls down, no changing windows, no roofs, no big ticket items. Just rough, I would say, just for cosmetic, like cabinets, flooring, countertops. vanity showers. $40 a square foot is a good number to get started at. If you're in California, go higher. And if you're in a cheaper market, I would say go as low to $20 to $30 a square foot for cosmetic on like lower price point properties under $200,000 a property. The next thing that we're going to want to get into is funding the deal. The questions I asked here is, do you have any capital to buy properties, or do you have lines of credit to start? We personally flip all of our properties with hard money lenders. We have a good reputation with them now because we flipped several homes with them. So we're roughly around 10 to 0% down with some lenders, and with most lenders, we're around 10% down. But first, getting started for your very first flip, the lenders are going to be probably looking for around 20% down. And yes, you can get that 20% down with credit cards, cash advances, and lines of credit. That's the reason I put do you have lines of credit to get started? Because you can flip houses with credit cards and cash advances, home equity lines of credit and things like that. You don't need to purchase a property cash. Another good tip that I can throw in there, if you have any friends or family that you can go get, a down payment for. My very first deal, I reached out to my mom and dad to get funds for the down payment, and I was lucky enough for them to give it to me. And, I've been constantly just recycling families' money for down payments and buying more and more properties. The first one, raising money for your first deal, is probably going to be the hardest because you have no experience. But after you get that very first deal across the finish line, then, it's going to be easier and easier to get money, and raise capital. Anything else for funding? I would say, oh yeah, if you want to team up with a couple of friends, like 2 or 3 friends that you guys have a little bit of money saved up, you guys want to pool some money together for the down payment and then split the profit 3 ways. That's another great idea. I love to tell friends and family on how to get started. So yeah, just reach out to your best friends. Somebody has a little bit of cash saved up, just sitting in the bank. Reach out to them and say, hey, you want to go 50-50 on this house flip? I'll handle the whole process A to Z, and we'll split the profits 50-50 at the end. The next thing you want to get into is rehab. This is probably the scariest part, is hiring contractors to the rehab, especially for beginners, because they've heard horror stories. Contractors running away with money, charging them way too much. Slowly increasing the bid as the project goes on. The best sauce I can give for this is find a reputable contractor, and the best way I know how to do this, that's worked for me in the past, is to look for the best flippers in your area, the guys that are flipping 50 plus homes a year, and just try to look at the county's website, because it's all public records. So you can type in the owner's name, like the LLC that they buy properties under, and try to find a property that they've bought within the last 30 to 60 days, and just drive by it. And if you see like a dump trailer in front of it, that means they're doing the demo work in there. Try to knock on the door and get the contractor's contact info. This worked for me. I've done it probably several of times, 10, 15 times already. And I've gotten so many different contractors like this. Because if the big guys are using them, that means they're reliable, their quality of work is good, and they're probably priced really aggressively for these guys to flip 50, 60 homes a year. So that's a great tip, is basically look up if they've bought any properties recently within the past month, drive to the property, hopefully there's a dump trailer in front of it, somebody's there, knock on the door, get their contact info. The last step is going to be sell. I'm a licensed agent in Nevada, so we do list all of our properties ourselves. If we are flipping out of state, which I don't recommend, again, I've done it a few times, I would hire a listing agent. And another thing is, I would never pay a listing agent the full 3% commission. When you're a house flipper or an investor and you're going to do a lot of deals, you can't afford to pay the listing agent a full 3% commission. Buyer's agent, different story. You can pay them their full amount. I recommend offering them a 2.5 to 3% commission, because they're going to bring all the buyers to your property. Very, very important. But when hiring a realtor to list your own property, if you're not licensed, I would pay probably around 1 to 1.5%. That's what I would offer them. And if you can pitch to them that you're going to be bringing them a lot of deals, they'll be happy to do work for that 1.5%, especially if it's in a high volume. So yeah, this was just a quick overview on how to flip houses for beginners. Not really wholesale, but the process is pretty similar to do wholesale. But you got to pick which market you want to work in, how you're going to want to generate leads. Then analyzing the deals is very, very important. I mean, all the money is made in the buy. Everybody knows that. You don't make money with picking the best fixtures, the best finishes. You make money when you buy the property. And then probably the most important part, number 4, fund the deal. Where are you going to get the capital to fund it? Then 5, rehab the deal. And then 6, sell it and then take home that profit. Thank you guys for watching. Click the link in the bio if you want to book a call with me. It's going to be free, and our team's going to see if we can help you get your flipping business off the ground or do your first flip.